The Regulatory Standards Bill says consultation with people who will be materially affected is a foundational principle of good lawmaking. So of the people who are going to be materially affected by the pay equity changes you introduced, who did you consult before making those changes?
Look, I think it's pretty clear with the changes that we've seen go through that I had an impetus and a request from my Cabinet colleagues to get this work done as fast as I could.
Sorry, that's not my question. The question was, given your own Regulatory Standards Bill says that consultation...
Now, I know it's obvious for 90% of us, but let me just put it out there. The Regulatory Standards Bill, which they're trying to pass, obviously, right, what they want to put through, says these two things. Retrospective legislation is not allowed, and consultation with people directly impacted by legislation, any legislation, must be had. So I know he's kind of explaining that, but if there's one person out there who's missed it, he's referencing their RSB, their Regulatory Standards Bill, which is not yet law, but he's referencing that and saying, why aren't you abiding by your own legislative desires? Just for clarity.
The question was, given your own Regulatory Standards Bill says that consultation is vital, who did you consult with?
We consulted with Cabinet colleagues. My Cabinet colleagues asked me to get this done very fast.
You say, to go back to it again, you say consultation with people who are materially affected. So who that will be materially affected did you consult with?
So this is the perfect example of ACT wants us, everybody else, to follow the rules that they're putting forward in their Regulatory Standards Bill. This is the way they want to do it until they want to pass legislation and they don't want to do it. This has been the hypocrisy show brought to you by the letter H. You guys, and look, I'll just put it out there. When we're talking about getting rid of stuff to do with utility and the treaty, we're going to ram this through and these are the conditions that apply. I don't know, we're not going to follow those conditions with our legislation, but everyone else's for the legislation we put in. Or what they're saying is we're using this language in the Regulatory Standards Bill, like that you got to consult and you can't do it retrospective, to make it look like it's not as scary as it is. And we're proving that because we don't really mean it, because we're not really following it anyway. That's the other thing it could be.
Materially affected. So who that will be materially affected did you consult with?
Look, Jack, I'm not responsible for the Regulatory Standards Bill. That is David Seymour.
You are responsible for pay equity changes?
I am responsible for the pay equity changes.
So that's my question. Who that was materially affected by those changes did you consult with?
Look, there was not widespread consultation. There was consultation with Cabinet colleagues. But look...
She misspoke the word none. There was none. There was no consultation. Not there was not widespread. There was zero. And she's about to say, because we weren't able to, that's because they chose to put it through under urgency. The reason she's going to try and use an excuse right now that says, I would have, if we could have, was they chose not to. You know, they chose not to, and they could have done it another way if they chose to do it a standard way.
Under a normal process, I would have loved to have done
I would have loved to, Chewie.
We didn't have the
Let me ask about
ability
another
to do
part of
that
that change. So the Regulatory Standards Bill says laws should not be retrospectively enacted. Your changes, of course, have retrospective effect.
There's
it says you should
Pat.
consult with people who are materially affected. You didn't consult with those people. So why don't the regulatory standards that your party says are so important not apply to your laws?
Yeah.
Look, Jack, I think it's really clear. You know, under normal circumstances, we would wish to follow very strong regulatory...
Yeah, Brooke, you chose the circumstances. You chose them. Under normal circumstances, there was no reason to do this under urgency. You chose to. This could have been normal circumstances, and you chose for it not to be. So you can't basically go, you know what? If we had done it a different way, we would have when we chose to do it a different way. You can't use that as a defense because you chose not to do it under the norms, the normal process.
You know, under normal circumstances, we would wish to follow very strong regulatory standards. That
By the way, Chewie, in the last 45 seconds, it gets worse. Just telling you, just putting it out there.
Is core to the ACT Party principles. This is a policy that I said at the start of my term I was interested in pursuing. It became really clear this year that my Cabinet colleagues wanted me to work on this as quickly as I could. I am a team player, and so I did my job.
Okay, I tweeted this today. My Cabinet colleagues wanted, and she just said, I'm a team player. Her loyalty is not to the voter, not to her constituents, not to the party. Her loyalty, and I know we know this, but she just said the quiet bit out loud, is she is loyal to the caucus. I am a team player. Even if I didn't want to pass this, even if I thought this bill was wrong, I am a team player. I will do what I have to do because the team wants it. Chewie, this has got about 20 seconds. So we get to the end?
Sure.
Because I'm still going to say it gets worse in the last 20 seconds.
However,
Right. So
if I'd had the
regulatory
ability
standards
to,
are
I would have
important
done a different
sometimes,
process.
but not. Yeah, they're important sometimes, but not necessarily for laws that are convenient for
I'm
your,
a team
your
player
government to
for the
pass.
government. The ACT Party would
Yeah.
love strong regulatory standards. That is core to who we are as a party. But I was asked by my cabinet colleagues to do this as fast as I could.
Do you believe there are
I'm a team player for the government.
For the government.
Quote. I'm a team player for the government.
Brooke, you might want to look at your job description. You put there by the New Zealand voter, you work for us.
Yeah. Can I?
That-
That's a good question. Who
that
is your boss, Brooke?
Monstrous.
Who pays you, Brooke? Who is your boss?